Hello, Charles.
Yes, babe.
I choose us. I choose you.
I choose you too forever. I promise you, you won't regret it. I love you.
A mechanic standing beneath a mango tree on a hot afternoon. His dark gray overalls were stained with engine oil. Grease covered his hands and part of his face. His rubber flip flops were worn from years of standing on concrete floors. The scent of fuel and motor oil held onto his clothes, his apprentices hovering around him, fetching tools and holding parts. Around him sat broken vehicles with their hoods raised, old tires lay scattered around the workshop. To most people, he looked like an ordinary roadside mechanic, a man with rough hands, a simple life, and very no hopeful future. But what nobody could see was his determination and honesty, or the extraordinary destiny hidden beneath those grease stained clothes. Because while wealthy people drove past him without a second glance, one woman stopped, and that single moment would change both their lives forever. If you love emotional Nigerian stories filled with powerful life lessons, subscribe, like this video, and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Mabel Nwankwo was the kind of woman everyone admired: tall, elegant, dark skinned, and stunningly beautiful. She was highly educated, confident, and successful. Before she turned 30, she already held both a bachelor's degree and a master's degree from prestigious universities in Canada. She sat on the boards of major companies. People often described her as the complete package: brains, beauty, class, and pedigree. Her father, Chief Paul Nwankwo, was one of the most respected businessmen in southeastern Nigeria. Her mother, Chief Mrs. Joyce Nwankwo, was a powerful socialite whose influence stretched far beyond their state. Growing up, Mabel never lacked anything: the best schools, the finest clothes. Paris today, London tomorrow, New York next week. People joked that she traveled abroad as casually as others traveled between Lagos and Abuja. Naturally, everyone assumed her future had already been planned, especially her parents. They dreamed of seeing her marry a governor, a senator, or perhaps a billionaire whose name opened doors. But life that afternoon, Mabel was returning from an important business meeting when her black SUV suddenly coughed, shook, and died completely. No, 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 she muttered. The vehicle rolled to a stop beside a dusty road. Frustrated, she stepped out into the scorching sun. A short distance away stood a small mechanic workshop. Nothing fancy, just a zinc roof, old tires, and damaged vehicles waiting to be repaired. Then she saw him, standing beneath a large mango tree, tall, handsome, grease covered hands, oil stained clothes. Yet somehow there was dignity in the way he carried himself. His name was Charles Okafor. Can you help me? Mabel asked. Charles nodded calmly. Let me take a look. 30 minutes later, the SUV roared back to life. Mabel smiled. You fixed it? It was only the spark plugs, Charles replied. She handed him 20,000 naira. Charles counted it, then removed 3,000 and returned the rest. Mabel blinked. You forgot the balance, Charles smiled. No, ma. What do you mean? I only collect payment for work I actually do. Mabel stared at him. Most people wanted something from her: money, connections, influence, but Charles wanted none of those things. And for the first time in a very long time, someone genuinely interested her. The following week, she returned. My car is making a strange sound, Charles checked. It's perfectly fine. A few days later, she returned again. The steering feels different, Charles laughed. It's fine too. Eventually, Charles folded his arms and smiled. What exactly do you want from a poor mechanic like me? She smiled back. Friendship. And that was how it began. Conversations, phone calls, shared dreams, shared fears, shared hopes, month after month. Their friendship deepened until one day they realized friendship had quietly become love. 4 months later, Mabel brought Charles home to meet her family. The dinner was supposed to be simple. Instead, it became a disaster. The moment Charles walked in, everyone noticed his modest clothes, his humble background, his quiet confidence. Then Joyce Nwankwo asked the question, "What do you do for a living, young man?" Charles smiled politely. "I'm a mechanic, ma." Silence. Complete silence. "A mechanic?" Joyce repeated. "You mean you repair cars?" The smile vanished from her face. Then she slowly turned toward her daughter. "A mechanic is the man you want to marry." Uncles exchanged glances. Aunties shook their heads. Someone laughed quietly. And from that moment, Charles was already condemned. What nobody knew was that another man had been watching. Richard Duke, Mabel's friend's brother. Richard was handsome, educated, well dressed, and completely useless. Every business he touched failed. Yet for years, he believed Mabel would eventually marry him. Not because he loved her. No, Richard loved only one thing, money. And marrying Mabel meant access to the Nwankwo fortune. Then Charles appeared and ruined everything. Jealousy consumed him. That very night, he began plotting. Soon, rumors started spreading. Charles has a criminal record. He belongs to a gang. He only wants Mabel's money. He has children everywhere. Every week brought a new lie. Then Richard became even more dangerous. He forged documents, created fake police reports, edited photographs, fabricated evidence. And because people already looked down on Charles, they believed everything. One evening, the family called an emergency meeting. The atmosphere felt like a funeral. Joyce sat at the head of the table. Her face was cold, hard, unforgiving. Then she looked directly at Mabel. The room froze. Tears filled Mabel's eyes. But Joyce continued, "You will lose your inheritance. You will lose your position on the board. You will lose your place in this family. You will never step into this house again. And anyone who helps you will be disowned as well." The words shattered her. That night, Mabel cried harder than she had ever cried before. Her family stood on one side. Charles stood on the other. Her past and her future, her comfort and her heart. But deep down, she already knew her answer because Charles had never lied to her, never manipulated her, never tried to control her. He simply loved her. The next morning she called him. "Charles, yes, I choose you." Then she heard him crying for the first time, and she began crying too. A month later, they got married, a small church, a simple, no family support, just two people promising to stand by each other forever. The punishment came immediately. Her family cut her off, bank cards stopped working, business privileges disappeared, friends vanished, relatives blocked her number. Then she discovered she was pregnant, not with one child, but twins, two beautiful girls. Life became difficult. Some nights they ate only once, some days they worried about rent. Yet, through it all, Charles never complained. Instead, he worked harder and harder and harder, leaving before sunrise, returning after midnight, always fighting for his family. Then destiny opened a door. One afternoon, a transport company director brought a broken vehicle to Charles's workshop. Three mechanics had failed. Charles fixed it within an hour. The director was impressed. Soon more vehicles arrived, then entire fleets. Then nationwide contracts. Years passed. The poor mechanic opened three workshops, then six, then 12, an automobile parts company, an oil business, a transport fleet. The mechanic everyone mocked became a billionaire. Meanwhile, the Nwankwo family empire was quietly collapsing. Bad investments, massive debts, properties being seized, creditors calling daily, and unknown to everyone. The man helping them survive was Charles, without recognition, without praise, without expecting forgiveness. The same man they rejected, the same man they mocked, the same man they insulted. Only one person knew, Chief Paul Nwankwo, and he carried a secret. Years before Charles met Mabel, before he became a mechanic, before he dreamed of success. He was a poor orphan struggling to survive. Then an anonymous sponsor appeared. School fees were paid, books arrived, uniforms appeared. For nearly 10 years, Charles never knew who it was. That sponsor was Chief Paul Nwankwo. Years earlier, he had noticed a determined young boy reading a torn textbook beneath a tree, and he quietly paid for his education, never asking for recognition, never seeking gratitude, simply giving a child a chance. Sadly, Chief Paul died before Charles learned the truth. Meanwhile, Joyce Nwankwo was fighting a secret battle, cancer. For 3 years, she hid it from everyone. Every hospital visit reminded her of one painful reality. Life was running out, and she had spent 8 years separated from her daughter. 8 years. No birthdays, no hugs, no reconciliation, only silence. Many nights she sat alone looking at Mabel's photographs and crying because despite everything, she never stopped loving her daughter. Then the truth about Richard finally surfaced. The fake police reports, the forged documents, the lies, the manipulation, everything. It had all been Richard. Joyce was devastated. For years, she had judged Charles unfairly. For years, she had punished Mabel, and all because of lies. Then she discovered another truth. The family businesses had survived only because Charles secretly rescued them again and again. Millions of naira, debt settlements, emergency transfers, business rescue agreements, all funded by Charles. The mechanics she rejected. Joyce broke down for the first time in years. She cried uncontrollably. Knowing her time was short, she wrote a letter, then rewrote it again and again, until finally she sealed the envelope. If I don't survive, she whispered to her lawyer, give this to my daughter. 3 months later, Joyce passed away peacefully in her sleep. When Mabel received the letter, her hands trembled. The first line read, my dearest daughter. Tears immediately filled her eyes. Then came the second line. I was wrong. Those 3 words shattered her. For 8 years she had waited to hear them. Then came another revelation. Her father had secretly sponsored Charles throughout his education. Charles lowered his head and cried, not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like a man who had finally found the missing piece of his life. Soon afterward, Richard's crimes were exposed. He was arrested. The same people who once praised him abandoned him. But Charles never celebrated. He simply said, the truth doesn't need revenge. It only needs time. Then came the final surprise. Joyce had secretly changed her will years earlier. The family mansion, properties, company shares, investments, all transferred to Mabel, not because of money, but because it proved one thing: her mother had never truly abandoned her. And then came the final instruction. A large portion of the estate would fund scholarships for underprivileged children. The chairman of the foundation would be Charles Okafor, the mechanic, the man they mocked, the man they rejected, the man they underestimated, the man who saved them all. Months later, thousands gathered for the launch of the Chief Mrs. Joyce Nwankwo Scholarship Foundation. As Charles stood before the crowd, he remembered his childhood, the hunger, the struggle, the uncertainty, and the anonymous sponsor who changed his life. When he finished speaking, the hall erupted in applause. Many people were crying, including Mabel, because she finally understood something. Her father's kindness had never died, it had simply traveled through another person. One quiet Sunday afternoon, Mabel and Charles visited Joyce's grave. Their twin daughters stood beside them. Mabel knelt down, placed flowers gently on the grave, and whispered softly, I forgive you, Mom. A gentle wind moved through the trees, almost as if someone had heard, and for the first time in many years, Mabel smiled, not a painful smile, not a broken smile, a peaceful one, because forgiveness had finally replaced hurt, and healing had finally replaced silence. Sometimes the people who judge us are wrong. Sometimes the people who reject us regret it. And sometimes the person everyone calls just a mechanic becomes the man who saves an entire family. Never judge a person by their profession, judge them by their character, because titles can be bought, money can disappear, status can fade, but integrity lasts forever. What would you have done if your family rejected the person you loved? Would you have chosen love like Mabel, or would you have obeyed your family? Tell us in the comments below. And if this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, share, and turn on notifications to join our growing Story Banquet Films family. Until next time, remember, kindness never dies.